space and our point of discussions today. So use the Q&A section to put your question or raise your question, but make sure to mention clearly your full name and your company, and then I'll make sure to pass these questions to the gentleman. My colleagues are supporting me here as well, so if you have any concerns, any problems with the voice, the quality, any inquiries, go ahead and do ask in the chat part of the platform. So now, please allow me to welcome my guests, and instead of me introducing them, I'm sure that most of you know everyone here on stage very well. They are pioneer in the space, but I'll leave the stage for them, everyone to introduce himself, starting by our only lady here, Kokilla. Ladies first. Kokilla, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Walid. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here on a weekend. You know, weekends, I think, are the best to talk about interesting topics. So my name is Kokilla.
I thought you will be angry to bring you here on the weekend.
Weekends are relaxed, so weekends are good for discussions, and that's what the whole aim is, to discuss about the whole crypto tokenization space here. So nothing better than a weekend.
Okay, great.
So all of everybody, my name is Kokilla Alag. I'm the founder of Karm Legal Consultants. We are a proud UAE-based law firm and working in the space of technology, advising clients right from trying to understand what the technology platforms or the new age technologies they're using, helping them get their correct license, regulating them if they need regulations, and helping them also with the legal understanding. And that has made us grow quite significantly important in this whole journey of how cryptos or the tokenization space is growing, not just in UAE, but we're aiming at global, but yes, regionally also it's gaining a lot of importance. With that, let's start. Yes.
Thank you, Kokilla. Dr. Marwan, please feel free.
So my name is Marwan Al-Zarani. I'm the CEO of Dubai Blockchain Center, as well as the Director of Information Services at Dubai Electronic Security Center, as well as other crypto businesses. I don't want to take too much of your time, but what we try to create here in the UAE as a mission of the Dubai Blockchain Center is an ecosystem that is all welcoming to any crypto investor, blockchain developer, and any person who thinks that this technology is the future. And there are a few of us here and there in the UAE and abroad, and we want to create an environment where they can actually prosper and push the limits out of the UAE here.
Great. Ralph?
Yeah, thank you very much for the invite. It's my pleasure to be online today. Ralph Klabishnik is my name. I'm a co-founder of Crypto Valley Venture Capital, Crypto Valley Labs. Originally, I'm coming out from tech, so I have been a software developer a little bit more than 20 years ago. With Dubai, I have found my second home, a very nice place to live. Since 1998, I'm there. And I met James there, and we discussed how we could bring the Crypto Valley, which we created in Switzerland, to Dubai. And Switzerland, we have 900 companies in the blockchain space, a little bit more than 5,000 people working in it. And now with DMCC and the Crypto Valley Labs in Dubai, we're trying to move this over there. What we always need is we'll need good legal partners. So Kokilla was great with Karm because a pioneer in that space. In Switzerland, there was a company called MME doing the first legal work for the Ethereum Foundation. And of course, local people like Dr. Marwan, we met a few years ago when he started the Dubai Blockchains, and it's exactly what we did in Switzerland. And I still remember in January 2019, I think it was the Unlock Blockchain event in Dubai, organized by Walid and Lara. Thank you very much for having me at this time. So finally, it's going to happen, and everyone in these tough Corona times is moving to Dubai, and let's move the crypto space also there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ralph. James?
Yeah, thanks, Walid. Great to be here with all of our partners. So I work for DMCC, as Ralph mentioned. We are a Government of Dubai authority. I've been working with them now for 15 years. It started in 2002, so we're a free zone. And I guess one of our key functions is to provide licensing and business establishment here in Dubai. We also issue companies with trade licenses and help them through online processes. We work with Kokila and various other partners to aid this process. Just for everyone's knowledge quickly, a free zone in Dubai and UAE offers 0% tax, 100% business ownership, and 100% capital repatriation. DMCC was very early on in the blockchain space, working with the Free Zone Council and the Blockchain Innovation Group, which then became the Global Blockchain Council. So thanks for having us here today.
Most welcome, and never forget that Unlock as a company is DMCC company registered in DMCC as well. So
very privileged to have you. Thanks.
Thanks, buddy. So moving to the discussion, again, I'll start with Kokila. Kokila, on November 2020, ESCA released their digital asset framework, and this took a lot of hype in the media everywhere, and people have a lot of expectation. So I would love if you can take us through the details of this regulation. What shall people expect, and how far we went into the crypto space in this set of rules and regulations.
So let's start, Walid, because yes, you're absolutely right. By UAE announcing that the federal authority, ESCA, coming out with the laws around cryptos and especially around tokenization, it did create a fair bit of hype. And the reason, why we always say that this hype is good, because it shows that people are genuinely interested, understanding that they're in a decentralized space, but that does not mean that they need to be in a space where there are no laws governing, where investors or the customers or the service providers are not accountable for what they're doing. So it's really good to see that a lot of companies reached out to us since November. And ESCA recently, 2 weeks back, has actually now come out with a proper guidance note. So firstly, for everybody to understand that the federal authority is very keen on starting to license and regulate a lot of companies in this space. They have not limited themselves to saying, oh, because we are a securities and commodities authority, we are gonna just come up with security tokens and give you the whole explanation, which most of the global regulators have done. That one traditional security using blockchain is a security token. So that they've already captured. They've gone further ahead in classifying and defining what are the other crypto assets, except for cryptocurrency, which rightfully has been left for the jurisdiction of the central bank. Because anything which could be equivalent to money or a legal tender rightfully should be with the central bank to come out with. It's got nobody else has the authority globally to work on it. So in the tokenization space, they've gone ahead, pretty much remained a technology agnostic regulator, but at the same time, they would want you to come and explain the whole technology platform to them. They're building up the team internally that will help them with it. And they've also gone ahead in the whole security token space, going further into what are commodity tokens, because they are securities and commodities. And then James will talk more about how DMCC is looking at commodities. They've gone ahead, defined it, explained it, that if these are your assets, how do you use blockchain, DLT, and then go further tokenizing it? They've also explained really well that if you are going to be a principal or an agent trading in crypto assets, then you need to go back to the regulator and understand how you get licensed and regulated. They, for once, we've tried comparing the fees that they have kept as a capital required. They've kept it fairly decent. They haven't gone like really overboard, which some of the regulators we've seen in the region who've really increased the capital and made it pretty stringent for startups to get into that space. ESCA hasn't done that. Also, Shari, ESCA has also looked at how exchanges need to be regulated and licensed, both for security tokens to be listed, as well as to go ahead and listing crypto assets. So they're going to monitor and regulate an exchange that will deal in it, but they will not regulate a crypto asset or issuance of a crypto asset, essentially a cryptocurrency. So they've fairly come out with a very balanced document, which we were quite happy, because when we saw what we saw in November, we still had, to be in all honesty, a little reservations, but the guidance note is really a very good understanding, and the approach that they have taken, just like what ADGM has been doing so far, is that for every project they have said, please come and talk to us before you actually go ahead and start investing money
and time.
Yes, instead of going and talking to a lot of people around, ESCA is very approachable. And in the last 10 days, I must say, Walid, every time we've sent them an email, we've got a detailed response within 24 hours, guiding us what needs to be done. So this just shows that they're pretty keen. It's not just, we've given you a framework and now you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that in general has been really good.
My question was, and I believe you just touched based on this, comparing what we have now at hand in UAE with other jurisdictions, like what's in Europe, what's in maybe Malta, what is in. So how do you rate our set of regulations that are released by ESCA?
Without sounding biased, I would say this is very advanced, because we have seen what MFSA, Malta Financial Services Authority, came out with, or Central Bank of Bahrain, when they came out with, they did not cover tokenization. MFSA in Malta went ahead very detailed in tokenization and a lot of regulations around, so that just slowed and hampered the market to grow. We've seen what FCA UK has done. They've not regulated, but they've licensed and limited only to KYC. You know, that if a KYC is done and that's good enough. So ESCA, I think when they were coming out with the paper, have pretty much read and seen what globally has been done in this space. And they've tried to create an environment which is not very heavily regulated. They have left a lot of new areas, like DeFi has been left out. We, as per our understanding, we don't see space for NFTs, but these are the discussions that we will have with them.
It's so just new, and
absolutely.
I believe it will follow.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Marwan, my question to you, as an early believer in the crypto space, you were amongst the first Emirati fighting for the crypto space and the crypto regulation, running Dubai blockchain center. How do you look into this set of regulations from your point of view? I'm sure that many startups from all over the world, especially with the associations Dubai Blockchain Center is having with different blockchain centers, what is the feedback and how people are reading?
I'll reiterate what Kokila said. Look, Dubai is a space, and the UAE in general is a space where the regulators are really good listeners and they are really accommodating to businesses. End of the day, we want to empower these businesses to come in. I'll give you an example. Let me trace back of what I did actually. So when I started in crypto in around 2012. But I didn't start going into it heavily until 2013 with mining. And at that time, I asked if mining is regulated or can be regulated. Can I import these miners or not? And nobody understood what they were. And they said, yeah, sure, you can go ahead. There's no license required or anything. And in 2014, I started doing my first business in crypto. And even for that, they gave me a PSP license. And the aim initially was just to bring in some ATMs here. And we did in 2014, and we put them in several places in Dubai. The license is still active, but we don't really think ATMs are the way to go, to be honest. Therefore, later on, we started the Dubai Blockchain Center to educate people about crypto. And that was also a license around education. And then 2018, we did an OTC for one of the clients here in the UAE who needed to exchange Ethereum with local currency to pay their employees, basically. And it was a use case that I thought needed a license. And then we pivoted to Bitcoin because that was where the market wanted. And DMCC issued the first licenses for those out of the need of the market. You know, this is a regulator that's forward-looking, that wants to cater for people to invest in this kind of new and emerging space. But again, later on, ADGM started with their law, started accepting applications, did an opinion paper, and then positioning paper, and then the actual laws, and started issuing in-principle licenses. It's all an evolution. And even with the law that they issued as DMCC, they came back and changed it according to the feedback from people. So my advice is, if you have a crypto business, come approach the regulators, but be prepared, have a law firm represent you as the best case scenario. So you don't want to go to the regulator and talk to them about your business model and tell them, take it or leave it, this is what I want to do, because of course they're going to say no. But if you go with the right approach, with the right mentality that this is a conversation, a give and take kind of conversation, you have to be patient as well. And you have to understand that getting a license is one thing and getting banking relations is another thing. So a lot of things that you have to be careful of that is not obvious, might actually hurt you than help you. And it's better to partner with somebody who knows the regulator, or at least stay in the UAE for the period where you're trying to apply for your application, and have a continuous kind of give and take and communication with the regulators to see what license fits you best, and make sure that you are actually following the regulations rather than breaking the regulations and having your license removed or revoked.
Dr. Marwan, talking about regulators, as an expert in the field, and you run different entities and different companies in the space, how much do you feel like those regulators are fluent enough with the topic, and their readiness to learn and their readiness to change?
I don't think there's a huge information gap between the actual or knowledge gap between the actual businesses and the regulators. I think the regulators have reached a level of maturity with all these years that we've been approaching them. I've been approaching, for example, the IFC since 2015. The DMCC since 2018, and others. We all know each other, by name. Even now, when I met James, we do seminars together. We do surveys. We do a lot of stuff together. We are involved in the same conferences, the same groups for research, and otherwise. So the regulators and the actual businesses and non-profits in the space all know each other. We are a very small community. We consider each other family, actually. And
I know that you have a long list of them, so now you are counting them as well.
Yes, there's a lot of people who are in the UAE who are actually families of the regulators, that they themselves invest in crypto. This knowledge gap is no longer there, but I think we have to understand that these regulators are people as well, and they have mandates as well, and they have to stay within their mandates. And this is very important to understand, that they would love to help you and they know what you're trying to do, but sometimes we have to do it one step at a time. We have to have this kind of phased approach to having a law, and like was demonstrated before, both ADGM and DMCC are very fast evolving and moving the regulations forward.
Lately, I learned that you are running kind of regulation lab, moving around these regulators, putting them together, taking it case by case. How far you're gonna go with this?
So I am part of something called Area 2071 as Dubai Blockchain Center. And in the same area, Area 2071, we have actually the regulation lab. And the regulation lab, I think twice a month, takes in projects from various aspects of technology and different use cases, and takes them projects by project and case by case to the actual regulators and try to get the best regulation or sandbox for the actual startup or use case. So if that startup or use case has no regulation supporting it in the current legal framework, they will actually create a sandbox license for them. So that's an amazing opportunity as well. So if nothing fits you within DMCC, ADGM, DIFC, or even mainland Dubai, you are welcome to submit to the regulation lab as well.
Perfect. Ralph, or let me call you the Emirati Ralph. And I was gonna say talk about Dubai for you as a second home, but you already did that, so I have nothing more to say. So with the latest development, you've been in Dubai fighting the same fight of James, Dr. Marwan, Kokilla, and ourselves. So we have the regulation now in place. You already achieved an amazing step with putting the first cornerstone for Crypto Valley Dubai, replicating what you did in Zouk. So how do you rate this experience? And do you consider it as a mission accomplished, or still many things to go?
It's still super early and a long way to go. So, that's an ecosystem is only as strong as the weakest point in an ecosystem. And regulation is an important part what you have. But you need talent in this pool, and Dubai is in the moment attracting a lot of talent and a lot of entrepreneurs. You need capital. That's where Dubai and the whole area has been strong already. You need an open government which want to also use this technology, and Dubai did a very early blockchain strategy on a worldwide scale. And you need banks, as long as we are not replacing banks with the blockchain industry. And I think there on the banking side we have the biggest hurdles to fight in the next, or to jump in the next few months, because still when I do a business in Dubai, one of the questions is, are you touching cryptocurrencies, yes or no? And when you put yes there, most of the time
you're done.
Out of the
you're
process.
Done.
So you can
you're
start
having
again.
your coffee and leave.
Yeah, right. So but this reminds me a little bit back to 2017 in Switzerland. So we had the same situation, and then it's about education, and Dr. Marwan is doing a great job in educating over there also, and in the Arabic language, James and Kokilla, everyone here is on it, and it's showing that we use KYC AML like in the normal banking finance world, and that we regulate what we are doing. And on the other side, it's about cutting out those people who try to make quick money and probably scamming people, and that's dangerous in that area. So a good regulation, a good open regulation is helpful, that those who are doing real businesses are able to build on that. And what I really like, the whole ecosystem in the last year, the whole ecosystem in Dubai grew so much, as Dubai and the UAE in general grew super fast. And that's amazing for me.
Whenever you're living half of your time in Europe and in touch with almost everyone in the space, what are the expectations from the UAE? Looking up about around the big players in the space, the big protocols, the investors, the funds, what do they expect? are we on the right track? And the question maybe, are we late or we're fine? We're still able to catch up.
You know, we're still in the whole industry, we are still super early. So who is now into the blockchain space is still early, even it's already ongoing since 2009. And what are we expecting now from Dubai? Of course, I heard about we will see big exchanges coming to Dubai, settling there. And I don't see that in the next few months, to be honest. It takes a little bit of time to really onboard the big exchange, especially when there's a past business where you have to look into that. Is the past business really sober behind? And on the other side, I think on a protocol level, on a utility token level, on a commodity token level, and on a security token level, we have seen a great approach from ESCA. And for the people to know, ESCA is the regulator for the whole UAE, and DMCC is based on the ESCA regulation. It's a little bit of difference to have DFSA in DFC or ADGM. It's really also the mainland regulator. And that's very good that we are there now. And the quality of the paper and the material is really great. So someone did a good job in educating on that. And so what we will see in the near future is a huge growth in Dubai. We're now putting together how many companies we have in Dubai around yet, and we found 280 companies in the blockchain space. Dr. Marwan told me about 400 Emiratis already in the crypto space. I believe we will see 1,000 companies in that space in the next 12 to 18 months. So the demand is really high. And if we can catch up with that, that's good.
Great. James, are you ready to accommodate 1,000 companies?
Yeah, sure. We can add it to our existing 19,000 companies, which we're proud to have. And as Ralph said, we already have quite a few existing companies in this space. It's not all about regulation. There's a lot of innovation that goes on before a company even needs regulation in the space.
So lately, you've been working since November with ESCA, and you managed to sign an MOU, DMCC capable to issue an onshore license for blockchain and crypto in UAE. So again, a lot of hype went around this, and just if you can tell us in a language that we can understand, what does it mean exactly, and how companies and our guests, our attendees here can benefit from.
Sure. Can I give you a bit of history about our involvement?
Go ahead. You can start since Unlock 2018, Unlock Blockchain Forum 2000.
Well, that was great as well. There's some history before that as well. So as Dr. Marwan is one of the pioneers of the region. So he was well before this, but back in 2016, we put together the blockchain innovation group that I mentioned with the Prime Minister's office and Museum of the Future. And that became the Global Blockchain Council, which was taken extremely serious, and our chairman became a member of that. And I think we had about 46 different companies. And that was really to look at future applications of blockchain for the government and for the private sector. So a lot of concepts and pilot projects came off the back of that. And a lot of those are at government level. And some of those projects today have gone live. So there's been a lot going on behind the scenes, and it's not, although we're talking about regulations now, there's been a lot happening, as Dr. Marwan said, a lot happening before these regulations were in place, and in the sectors that don't really require regulations as such, as they are. So from there, then we also, as Dr. Marwan said, we came out with a proprietary trading in crypto commodities license. And that was kind of before its time, if you like. We saw a need for companies, an interest from companies, that wanted to be involved in the space, and they needed to set up a company. And this was a license activity that was designed specifically for them. And I think we've had many conversations through different regulators and authorities in Dubai, and that license activity actually spurred on the development of regulations and got the interest of people, showing how much demand there was in the space. So we're pretty proud of that, and it's alive today. And we're now moving on to obviously SCA regulated activities. And I think the beginning of that also, or the middle of that also, those discussions came at a time when we signed an agreement with Ralph and Crypto Valley and CV Labs to develop our crypto center at DMCC. So I think it was last January, I think 2020, beginning of the year, we signed in Davos to work together to continue, if you like, or build on their efforts that they've been so successful in Switzerland, building the Crypto Valley there, and to work together to do a similar effort for DMCC and the greater Dubai and the UAE, and work together with all of the different partners that we have, like Kokila and Dr. Marwan. And as he said, we're a big team, if you like. It's you mentioned it was a bit of a battle, but I think it's more of a group push to we're all interested to make this work. So yeah, the crypto center, Ralph will talk more about that, and the doors are going to be opening in the coming months, and they'll be very exciting. And then during that time, we were helping the SCA in terms of their draft regulations. They were very smart and reached out to a lot of people, a lot of companies, to help them to draft those regulations, or at least contribute to them. And I think they offer very good support for the industry. The history with DMCC and the SCA, just to clarify that, is we have our own DGCX, the Dubai Gold and Commodity Exchange, which is a derivatives exchange that's been operational since 2004. And the regulator of that and the regulator of broker members of that are regulated by the Securities and Commodities Authority. So although we're a free zone, non-financial free zone, we have regulation from the SCA to cover those activities. And this month, I think we passed it, so it was last month, we signed an MOU with the SCA, another MOU with them, to cover crypto asset regulations to enable DMCC to issue crypto asset license activities. So we're still working on those. As everyone's said here today, there's work to go into the detail of those, to show exactly what they cover, to protect the people that the regulations are there to protect, and to protect companies, and to make companies feel that they are operating within a regulatory environment that they understand. So we're working with SCA and various other partners to finalize those license activities and get them out into the public. I know it's also, it was mentioned earlier that it's important to have the right advice, and I will second that as well. I'll say that, Calm, I don't want to just point out Calm because, we're a free zone with many active consultants and legal advisors, but Calm is a very good, experienced one in this sector. And it's important when you're taking your company to regulation or into a regulatory environment that you understand that and you have managed your expectations. So I think advice on how to frame that when you're coming into the UAE and into this regulatory environment is extremely important. And there's plenty of advice to be got. You can contact any number of us to find the way forward for that.
We already took the initiative to share your contact details in the chat. So everyone here has your email, guys. What's the difference between what's gonna go out from the DMCC as a license and license from ADGM or the IFC? I
would say we offer a different regulatory environment. The ADGM is a financial free zone. They have their own area. The SCA is the regulator for the mainland. They are a federal UAE regulator. which will allow companies to be able to focus on the mainland clientele as well as everyone else. So it's an important license, it's an important activity, it's important regulation to have to protect, as I said, all of the people living in the UAE, as well as the companies that are providing these products and services. I mean, I'll take this opportunity to say it's a hugely exciting time. And, we're really privileged to be in this space. I love, if you know DMCC, it's gold and diamonds and we've provided now infrastructure for coffee and tea and everything.
Sugar.
But this space, but the funny thing is about this space, it is all over these other sectors. It's within those sectors. So this is innovation that actually is helping all these other industry sectors. So it's a very special one, and we're seeing the UAE light up as a natural global center, and huge interest from around the world for all different types of companies, from the DeFi sector, from new types of distributed ledger, all of these sectors that are either entirely moving to Dubai as setups and scale-ups, or they feel that they definitely need some type of representation in the UAE. So I'd say, sorry, just to finish on your question, the DMCC obviously is the licensing authority that is going to be issuing licenses for this new regulation. And it's really important that we get it right.
I fully agree. Going back to Kokil, after ESCA, or maybe at the same period of time, the central bank issued SVE, store of value facility. So trying to put the roadmap for wallets and digital assets holding. So how do you connect this together, and how can people benefit from what is released from the central bank?
So SVF came out at the same time as ESCA came out with the crypto asset regulations, which was, I think, a very well-planned timing, because digital wallets and digital wallet service providers have been left out. Definitely, ESCA will not look at that, the central bank. And also, one more important thing that has happened in the last 2 weeks, that the day ESCA came out with their guidance note, is pretty much the same day central bank came out with 2 more regulations. They came out with retail payment service providers as well as for large value payment service providers. Again, regulating and licensing service provider who work as either as a payment processing platform or a payment gateway, and coming out for regulations with that. Again, UAE has gone ahead and shown that when we talk about regulations, it's not just talking about one little sector, but growing fintech at a large. So if we're looking at cryptos, tokenization, we're looking at blockchains, we're looking at different technologies, and fintech, like what the UAE is the whole 2030 mission to be the fintech hub.
Sorry for interruption. And a few days ago, I learned about open banking. Also, they released something related to open banking.
A consultation paper is on for open banking. Yeah. Last week on Thursday, DFSA has released their consultation paper on tokenization and security tokens and cryptos. So you see an initiative from all the regulators. So UAE is one of those blessed countries which has 3 different financial regulators. We've got ADGM's FSRA, we've got DIFC's DFSA, and then ESCA and DMCC, what they're doing together, and the Central Bank of UAE. So one of the things that I would like to answer what you asked James earlier is that what's the difference between a license from ADGM, DIFC, and ESCA is that mainly when people are looking, especially talking to the expat population or the population from the rest of the world coming to UAE, they look at only at the free zones from where they can operate. What we're forgetting, very main highlight that came out last year, that from March, April onwards, we will have mainland UAE company, which need not have UAE nationals as their majority partner. So now you could be an expat, you could be anywhere in the world and open a company in the mainland UAE and do business from there. So there, these regulations from ESCA and central bank play a very important role. So now I don't need to be in a free zone, in a designated free zone as an expat and work, but I could actually have a retail business in mainland UAE and be in these new technology sectors, which earlier to grow the industry was limited to different free zones that were there in this space. But now we have the main federal authorities working on that. So that, together with ESCA regulations, central banks, fintech initiative that they've taken, is boosting what we say a true knowledge transfer happening here in UAE, where you have the local population, as Dr. Marwan highlighted, that we've got more than 400 Emiratis who are already interested in the whole blockchain space. You see a lot of young Arab population getting into this space, and then you have the expats working with them together. So that is changing what, like I've been here for 17 years. It's the first time I'm actually seeing a huge landscape shift over here. And with central bank regulations, they're not restricted, saying that you need to be in mainland. They're saying you're a free zone company, you're a mainland company. If you're doing anything in this fintech space, again, the approach is come and have a discussion with us. We will tell you if these regulations impact you. If they don't, then what license do you need to take? And if they do, like some of the payment service provider clients of ours actually do not fall under the regulations that have come. So that doesn't mean that we cannot go and discuss it with central bank. We are discussing with them, and then they're going to guide us that, okay, if not under these regulation frameworks, what next? Rightfully, like we've got some really good projects. You know, DFSA has been leading the whole crowdfunding space so far. And we've got some very good projects, Smart Crowd, Beehive, doing really well. But then we have a lot of UAE local companies that would want to get into this space. So ESCA has already announced, and we're in discussions with them, that they are coming with crowdfunding regulations. So that again is extremely progressive. So it's pretty much, you know, what we're seeing, the collaborations, we're seeing these new regulations, all are growing together at the same time. So it's not just focusing on one sector, but it's, so a lot of people come to us and say, why they are taking so much time. Obviously, because when we're talking about fintech at an overall space, it's not just one sector. It's not just payments or cryptos or blockchain. They need to look at all these sectors. So it's good to see all these regulators working collaboratively and working in that space, including the Ministry of Economy.
So I have something comes to my mind. Dr. Marwan, yani, if we look into, let's say, countries trying to cripple the crypto space, like North African country or even African country, the main concern for regulator that allowing crypto or onboarding crypto is gonna lead for drain out of capital and so on. So they are trying to keep the dollars inside country. So UAE has an amazing ecosystem since the beginning. So it shouldn't be a concern losing out capital from Dubai. How do you consider crypto space and will help to increase the foreign direct investment to the country? And comparing what we're seeing now in Bahrain, so central bank took fast steps and already regulated 2 exchanges, and we're witnessing, and we are amongst people using one of these because they are connecting or allowing us to connect with our traditional bank. So talking about this space and how can we attract investment, or what's the impact on the investment scene in general?
So as you mentioned, Dubai is a very forward-looking city, and what we noticed as well, not only in Dubai, but cities are becoming now powerhouses rather than countries. It's not only Dubai, in other countries as well. We have power cities that have, cemented their position, and certain, ecosystems and alternative economies. Like, for example, Zug in Switzerland is the crypto valley, right? And other jurisdictions have similar, powerhouses. And cities are now realizing very quickly that attracting not only the right talent, but also the right capital to come in is important. And the UAE has realized this as well a long time ago with different, incentives and incentive program. There's a program, for example, that was launched this year was Business in Dubai, for example. There's another program, which is the Golden Visa program there to attract the talent. There's a lot of other programs that are continuously being created and run. Not only, we don't only say what we want to do, but we also back it up by action. So this is the difference between us and the UAE and other countries. A lot of countries claim that they are economical zones or they offer incentives. We actually do what we claim to do. So I think for us, being wary of money going out, we actually look at the different ways. It is an alternative economy that we want to co-create here in the UAE. We want to attract all this liquidity coming into the crypto space to be here and in the UAE. We attract the actual thought leaders to come to the UAE and launch their projects out of the UAE. We want to become the capital of crypto. We want to become the capital of blockchain technology. We want to become the capital of the talent that's associated with this kind of economy that wants to live by choice in the UAE, not only for the regulatory, convenience or environment, but also for the lifestyle, for actually providing a good investment environment, a good place to live, a good place to bring your family, to educate your kids, and also have a beautiful and productive life.
Absolutely. So Kokila you talked about tokenization. It is clearly mentioned in the paper regulation. So while talking about Dubai, always the first thing that comes to your mind is the real estate industry. So how you combine the real estate and the opportunities in the real estate industry, the tokenization itself? A long time ago, Amar were trying to do a project in the space, but I'm not sure where in which stage they are now. But are we gonna see soon real estate tokenization on blockchain?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, the law has specifically gone in the definition and explaining not just security tokens, but explaining real estate asset-backed token. So that's a wide definition, because a real estate asset-backed could be something which is based on per square foot, which could be based on the rental income, the yield that comes on a real estate. So all that is inclusive. We've already gone and spoken even with Dubai Land Department, because this will not just be an initiative from ESCA that the law supports, but we need the land regulator as well. And they're happy to discuss these projects. In the last 1.5 months, we've got some really good queries from the developers here, talking about tokenization, not just for like how we have it on crowdfunding platforms, projects which are already ready and doing a rental yield, but also developers who are doing under construction, or developers who want to go out to retail and arrange these fundings. So yes, it does cover, specifically it includes it, which in ADGM was a little tricky for us to see how to be fitted here, because that was more on digital securities. But ESCA has explicitly included gold-backed, diamond-backed, commodity-backed, real estate-backed tokens to be included in the law. So when we have land department supporting it, as well as with ESCA, this is, I think, a good time. And when you're absolutely right, when it comes to UAE, real estate is the first thing that comes to mind. So many programs. No, they have definitely.
Okay. Ralph, you are somehow really active in the NFT space lately. So nothing about NFT in Dubai, and a lot of things still missing. We were discussing last day, talking about the tax associated with the NFT business. What is needed? So what is needed still for UAE to follow the NFT hype or NFT space?
First, we had a nice event, the Crypto Valley Summit in 2018.
I left this for you to talk about it because you are in love in what you did. So
yeah, absolutely, and we had the creators of the CryptoPunks in Zug at this time, and they made 24 pieces, physically CryptoPunks with the NFT attached, and at this time we have been crazy enough to buy a few of them with having no clue what's gonna happen. Then there was another project, Sasha Jaffrey, in between a very good friend of mine, started last year during COVID in March to create the biggest painting in the world on the ground floor of the Atlantis, the Palm. And what I really like about Dubai is going for the biggest, the greatest, just the superlatives at all. And he worked very hard to create this painting. And 9 months ago, we decided, how could we put more power into that using blockchain technology? And you followed our streams. Monday, a week ago, there was the first auction, and we raised with this painting 62 million for children in need. So, and it shows that with the power of blockchain and art, you can create an impact, and that's a huge thing. And what is coming now is a lot of stuff around NFTs and how do we move that on. And there's an important thing when you work on NFTs and digital art and so on, don't forget the VAT. And unfortunately or not unfortunately, also in the UAE, we have a VAT now since a little bit more than 2 years. Is this right? And we shouldn't forget about the VAT and how this works out. And a lot of people in our space, they forget about taxes in general. And it's not going to work because you need the taxes, you need the environment to build amazing cities like Dubai, because there must be some wealth creation or some money creation, and taxes is the way to do that. And I really like what Dr. Marwan said before. Dubai and the UAE, it's a powerhouse, and the people, they want to live there, they want to be there and create new things over there. And I think on a global scale, one of the first things for every one of us is we want to live in a secure environment where we can raise also our kids, where we can have our family, and where we can grow. And Dubai is for sure one of the best places. And so a lot of people from all over the world, from the US, from Romania, from you name it, are coming to Dubai, and I really like that.
Great. I'll move to take some of the questions raised in the Q&A section. So I have a question from George saying, as a tech company issuing a crypto utility token, is the framework currently covering clearly, or is it a gray area where the regulator decides? Maybe Kokilla, you can pick George's question. If you want to read it again, just go. This is the second question in your list. Got it?
Yes. So both ADGM and ESCA, and like any other regulator globally, has left utility tokens outside the regulatory framework. These regulations are for security tokens or crypto asset service providers. Utility tokens have not been covered. Now, how do you define that whether you're a utility or a security is again the approach that most of the regulators globally across Europe, US, or here in Asia have taken, is that come and discuss the project with us. Like currently we are doing that with both FSRA and ESCA, where our client has been given opinion in Europe for his project in the European part that he is not a security token. We are now doing the opinion on how he will be a utility token here if he was to file his application here. So there's not a gray area. There is a very clear demarcation. It's not the market that decides. It's the regulator who decides that if you have the characteristics of a security, then you are a security token. If not, you do not fall under it, which is somewhat that I would like to highlight here is that most of the clients who come to us, they still go by what was initially the case with the Hovey test from United States. And there were only two types of tokens, utility or security. There is the third, which is the payment token or a cryptocurrency as such that we talk about, which ADGM in depth has covered. ADGM has covered definition of what would a cryptocurrency would be and what would be a stable coin. Or they're pretty much the first ones who actually went ahead and defined what a fiat token or a stable coin would be. So when a client approaches here in UAE, we tell them, don't just look at your token as either a security or a utility. You could very well be a payment token or a cryptocurrency. So the laws are there. It's not a gray area.
Okay. So long list of questions from Lon Wong asking, am I right to conclude that security offered can be sold globally?
So securities offered or issued from here is gonna be like any other security globally. So if you can buy shares of a company which has issued the security from United States, it's pretty much the same that if it is a digital security issued or approved from FSRA, ADGM. And by the way, we do have one use case, like somebody has asked that is there a case that they can look at? They can look at what the Libra project is the first digital security to be issued and listed at FSRA, ADGM. And yes, they have been allowed to do an exempt offering and go for a private placement for a fundraise. So yes, depending on the investor's jurisdiction, these securities can be purchased. There is no restriction from the regulator here in UAE.
Okay. A question from Yasser. Yasser, I kindly ask you already share the contact details of our panelists. I kindly ask you to send an email to Dr. Marwan regarding the question that you raised here. I prefer not to discuss this live. Is there a central security depository? Who would like to answer this? James or Kokilla?
There isn't none. There isn't. Custodians have license both from ADGM and from ESCA. This is a category there. So there is no requirement for a central depository here in UAE.
Okay. Khalid, I see many apps of cryptocurrency trending nowadays on social media announcing buying and selling are allowed now in Dubai or in UAE. Is this true? Khalid, I believe we answered this on the go during the session. There's a lot of there's a lot of things happening, and people have to be vetting what they are listening. So what they are, if they have been approached by some projects here and there, the regulation is clear, and we tried here to clarify everything. So whatever regulated has to be really highlighted as regulated. Yet till now, as clarified by Dr. Marwan, Kokilla, James, and Ralph, I can't say that there's anything licensed on the crypto payment yet or in Dubai. So James, where shall we expect to start getting people on board in DMCC? And are you planning a specific package, like make it easier for people to understand what shall they expect instead of going through the long list of documentation? So and this is what is highlighted by Dr. Marwan and Ralph earlier. So are you gonna place a package where, let's say, if you're looking for an OTC desk, this is the package. You're looking for payment company, this is the package whatsoever. So
sure. As you know, the regulations came out, and there's now also been details of those regulations. So it will become very obvious what those regulations cover in terms of activities, what you can and can't do, what is expected of you. And at the same time as that will trickle down into your license activity, which we will obviously give details for, what your requirements are. We'll also advise companies what they can expect in terms of application. People have to be realistic, as we said, you know, if you're looking at setting up an exchange or being a broker, these are serious activities. I know decentralization is great, but as was mentioned earlier, there needs to be a level of regulatory environment, a good regulatory environment, if you like. So that's what we're working on. It may be a little bit confusing now, and there may be a little bit lacking of information out there, but that's coming. You know, these things take time. I think over the next couple of months, if you watch this space and you keep in contact with us, you will see a lot of changes. We can guide you in terms of what activity would be suitable for you, whether you need to be regulated, whether you don't need to be regulated, proprietary trading in crypto, does that need to be regulated? Tokenization of gold or other products, does that need to be regulated? All of these questions we'll be able to answer over the coming weeks and months. So we see that as the next stage, but it's coming. It's probably the most important stage now.
So you're inviting everyone to keep eyes on Unlock.
Oh, totally, always, and DMCC and everyone else, of course, who bring the technology together.
Dr. Marwan, we heard earlier about this ABER project between Saudi Arabia and UAE, between both central banks for cross-border payments. Any update on this level or the project?
Not really. I'm not involved with it. The last time I think we met with them was when we were doing the tokenization report, and you can see the details of the ABER project within that report, as well as the central bank itself published a detailed report on the findings from that exercise, which is the ABER exercise. So
I believe, if not mistaken, I believe they did a testing exercise on December, I believe, but we didn't see anything released about what happened.
There was a report that was published, but I'm not sure if it was before December or after. But just to give you the brief, is that it was 3 different stages. One stage is central bank to central bank, and then bank to bank, and then central banks and bank to bank with the central bank oversight. So these are the 3 different stages, and yeah, it was all successful, and I'm not sure what happened after that. But it is not, again, what we call a central bank digital currency. It is a non-retail central bank settlement system.
Yeah, it is a settlement system. So we're gonna conclude in a few minutes. So I leave it to you, if starting maybe by Ralph, wrapping up this conversation. If you have anything to add in this, so please feel free.
Thank you, Walid, and thank you the further panelists. For me, the message is the regulation is there, the ecosystem is growing, and I assume there are a lot of different people from all over the world listening to us. I can fully recommend, come to Dubai, bring some real use cases, bring substance, and you will find a very open environment to open up your company there, to find the market and to grow. So we did it, and we have been very warm welcomed, and I think this is extended to all the world, and we are all happy to help and to grow that ecosystem. It's not about the competition in the UAE or Dubai, it's about how we can grow together. This is the interesting story.
James?
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for a great discussion. I'd say that Dubai's ecosystem, or the larger UAE ecosystem, is in place. It's great to get the regulatory environment coming in, but there's also a lot of companies already in Dubai, and we'd like to attract a lot more. I think the sort of sectors and the bits and pieces that are covered are coming. I mean, from NFTs to new DLT to all of these different parts of the ecosystem. But together with CV Labs and Ralph and team, we're building a greater ecosystem, I'd say.
I'm sure you will. Dr. Marwan or Kokila? Dr. Marwan. Yeah.
Ladies first, Kokila.
Kokila.
No, it's a great message, and we would like to say that it's not just the laws and regulations are there. We see the implementation of it. We see the whole drive from the regulators and being open to discussion. As Dr. Marwan highlighted, the whole Reg Lab, that's a beautiful initiative that we've created the ecosystem. What doesn't fit in the ecosystem, the country is still ready to go ahead and support it. So UAE is living by that whole motto, what they've always had, that we want to be the best in what we do, not just anymore be the first ones, but with these change in the whole way regulators are looking at it, what we're seeing is that we know what we're doing and we are ready to, discuss it and welcome everybody to be here. I come from India, and how in India has gone ahead and banned a lot of things. That's not an approach that we see happening here. And we also see with the rest of the Arab countries looking up to what UAE is doing. So we're part of a lot of those initiatives as well. So yes, welcome to UAE.
Dr. Marwan?
Yes, so the final thought I would love to leave everyone with is the UAE is an environment and a leadership that actually wants to create an environment where everyone is happy. As you know, as we've seen with the COVID crisis, I think we were one of the first countries to open up. We were one of the highest vaccinated people in the whole world, and we are trying to practice and show to the world what we can do, not only claim. And a lot of people who do not come to the UAE or never been to the UAE have a lot of false assumptions about the country. Every single person that I know of that came to the UAE has his mind blown on how great this country is and how the leadership here creates opportunities for everyone. Whether you are a very wealthy person or you are a very, very normal person that comes to Dubai, it actually impresses everyone at all walks of life. From the laborer to the actual CEO and the multi-billionaire. It is an environment where everyone is welcome. It is an environment where you can do business, you have opportunities to create, you have different opportunities to actually even not break the law, but actually have something customly made for you. I'll give you a very good example. So within the same building that we are in as Dubai Blockchain Center, we have something called the Ministry of Possibilities. So remember when I mentioned that every ministry or every department in the UAE government has their own mandate and have their own sphere of influence, yes. And UAE created something called Ministry of Possibilities, which if something falls between the cracks or does not, fall into the mandate of any minister, multiple people can come in and create like a task force or a team to solve that particular problem. I don't think any country in the world or any city in the world has this kind of thought leadership where we want to actually genuinely solve problems, and we genuinely want people to prosper and live a very productive and happy life. So that just gives you an idea of the mentality that we have here as a leadership and the people living in the UAE.
Can't agree more. Thank you. For us at Unlock, we try to bring believers in the space as ourselves. We believed in the space at early stage. We created Unlock. Unlock now is maybe the one and the only blockchain and crypto media platform in the whole MENA region. We're trying our best, fighting all the odds trying to teach, to promote, to highlight all successes, all problems, letting the world know what's happening in this part of the world, and bringing the knowledge and the news of what's happening around the world to people in this part of the world. Thank you for being here, our dear panelists and guests. Thanks for our attendees. And hopefully we'll meet again soon with other set of series of webinars or content materials. Thank you, everyone, and have rest for the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.